Congresswoman Chu, thank you so much for speaking to VOA China Press.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I really appreciate your time. The election is a little bit over a month away, and Mr. Trump and Secretary Clinton are in a dead heat, and as a Democrat, you are a supporter of Secretary Clinton. What are some of her ideas and policies that appeals to you the most?
Hillary Clinton has such a command of the issues that are important to us as Americans. She is for ensuring that we build a strong middle class. She is for getting jobs back into this country with an infrastructure plan. She is for making sure that higher education is available for everybody and that we cut the costs that have burdened so many students who are trying to get a college degree. And in particular, as an Asian American, I am just so glad that she takes such a strong position on immigration reform. We Asian Pacific Islanders know that this severely affects us. We are 40% of the 4.3 million family visa backlog. And as a result, families have been split apart for decades with no end in sight. So we need to reform the family visa system and also have a path to citizenship for all of those who have been stuck in the shadows with nowhere to go to be able to become total Americans in this country.
You represent California 27th Congressional District. What are some of the main concerns of your constituents? I know your constituents are very diverse, and Asian Pacific Americans are the majority there.
Well, my constituents are concerned about the same things that all Americans are concerned about, and that is making sure that we have a good economy and jobs, making sure that there are services for everybody, that we have a good transportation system. In fact, one thing I can say that's very particular about my district is we do have traffic gridlock. LA County is just famous for it. And so that's why I've been such a proponent around efforts for mass transit like the Gold Line, which would take traffic off of the freeways. But the constituents of my district also want to make sure that those who serve our country are well taken care of, and that's why I am working hard to get a veterans health clinic in the San Gabriel Valley in my district. So I am working on many things that I think can benefit those in my district. For instance, pertaining to jobs, 2 out of every 3 new jobs come from small business. That's why I joined the Small Business Committee, and I've been working very hard to make sure that our small businesses get the technical help they need through the small business development centers, but also that they get the access to capital that they need. And in fact, I just successfully introduced a bill to get a loan refinance program for the commercial real estate of small businesses. If they can take their old expensive loans and refinance it at today's low rate, then that frees up capital so that they can run their business more successfully.
You are the chair of Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. What is specifically the concerns of Asian Pacific American community in this election?
In this election, they are looking at things like comprehensive immigration reform and whether we can finally clear up that family visa backlog. They're also concerned about racial profiling. In particular, many are concerned about the Chinese Americans who have been accused of being spies for China, their names put through the mud, and then finally all the charges being dropped. That is a form of racial profiling. We don't want that to happen. And they are concerned about access to higher education. Many of them are immigrants who came here just to make sure that their kids got a good college education, and they want to make sure that they continue to be able to achieve the American dream.
You mentioned about the a lot of Chinese Americans, sometimes as scientists, are being wrongfully accused of espionage cases, and you just questioned Attorney General Loretta Lynch about Department of Justice investigation in these cases. Can you talk a little bit more about this, especially the high-profile arrest of Professor Xiaoxing Shi?
Yes. I was shocked when I heard about what happened to Professor Xiaoshang Shi. Who would have thought a professor doing his own research at Temple University in Philadelphia would suddenly wake up one morning at his home in his pajamas to find 12 FBI agents, most of them having guns pointed at him, arresting him in front of his wife and daughters, in front of the whole neighborhood, taking him down to the headquarters, and then accusing him of things that would cause him to spend 80 years in jail with $1 million worth of fines, and then his name being put in the newspapers as a spy for China. Well, after months of grief, he finally was able to prove that the item that they thought was in question was not anything that, not any kind of technology that was of particular use to China in terms of espionage. And so the FBI was forced to drop all charges. So to think that they could have done this to this professor, practically ruined his life, is very, very alarming. And then when I heard that there were other cases like this around the nation, I said, we have to do something. So we in KPAC then contacted the Department of Justice. We have questioned them. We have met with Attorney General Loretta Lynch. We put a lot of pressure on them in various ways. And finally, they indicated, they didn't say that it was in response to us, but we think it is, and that is they indicated that they would have greater oversight from Washington, D.C. on these cases as they come up around the nation. They also said that they are going to have a training on implicit bias of all their agents and as well as their attorneys. So we think that this is a reaction to the kind of uproar that's been created through these arrests.
What kind of role do you see Asian Pacific Americans play in this election, both presidential and congressional?
The Asian American vote across this nation is becoming very significant. We are the fastest growing electorate, and our numbers of voter registration have doubled over the last decade from 2 to 4 million. I believe we are the swing vote in the swing states, like Nevada and Virginia. In Nevada, we are nearly 10% of the population. In Virginia, we are 6.2% of the population. If all those voters go in a particular direction for a candidate, then they can swing the election.
How are the Asian Pacific Americans candidate do in this election?
The wonderful thing is that we see an increasing number of Asian American candidates, and I do believe that we will see an increasing number of success of these candidates. So in fact, we have 13 members of Congress right now. That is a very, very good number, a very historic number. But we actually have 3 other Asian American candidates that are quite viable. We have Raja Krishnamurthy in Illinois, we have Pramila Jayapal in the state of Washington, and we have Stephanie Murphy, who's Vietnamese American in Florida. So I believe that we are going to see an increasing number of Asian Americans in Congress, and that can only help. It can only help to have a greater diversity of people who are here at the highest decision-making bodies.
You are the first Chinese woman ever to elected to the Congress, a Chinese American woman. What does this achievement mean to you?
Well, it's a great honor to be in this position, to be able to change things for the better for all the people in America, and to do things also that can help the Asian American community here. In fact, one of the first things that I did was to work on an apology for the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. This was one of the most discriminatory laws ever passed by Congress. It stopped the Chinese from being able to immigrate, from being able to naturalize so that they could not vote, and it forced them to carry papers on them at all times or else be deported, even if they were legally in the country. And in fact, only the testimony of a white person could save them. So this act was in place for 60 long years. Many, many Chinese suffered from it. Finally, it was repealed in 1943, but Congress had never apologized for it. When I got here, I thought one of the most important things I could do for the Chinese American community was to get that. And so yes, in 2012, we got an expression of regret for the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, and it was a unanimous vote on both the Senate and the House side.
What do you think about the current relationship between U.S. and China? What are the major challenges, and are there areas where the two countries can cooperate?
I was so encouraged to see the agreement between the U.S. and China on the environmental front, and that is the agreement on global climate change. This was such a significant step forward because the U.S. and China account for 40% of the carbon emissions in the world. And of course there was the historic Paris Agreement, but that still actually hasn't been signed. It won't be officially in operation until we get 55% of those who emit the carbon emissions to be able to sign on. Well, we took a great step forward with the U.S. and China comprising 40% of those emitters. So the U.S. and China worked together on an agreement that could make them the leaders in ensuring the Paris Agreement and therefore leaders in stopping climate change.
Is there any words that you would like to say to our audience in China?
I would like to say that it is so important for us to have cooperation. I think that people on both sides of the ocean stand to gain by our mutual cooperation, and it's shown over and over again with climate change and certainly with the economy. We've seen investment by the U.S. and China. We've seen a great deal of investment of those from China in the U.S. For those who have invested in the U.S., it's brought about jobs. And we can hope that this kind of cooperation will increase in the future.
Thank you so much, Congressman Chu, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.